We begin today with that extraordinary breaking news that we heard about within the last hour. US Special Operations Forces have carried out a counter-terrorism mission in northwest Syria. And President Joe Biden says that Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurayshi, the leader of the Islamic State, was killed in the operation. In a statement put out in the president's name, the White House said, "Last night at my direction, US military forces in northwest Syria successfully undertook a counter-terrorism operation to protect the American people and our allies and make the world a safer place." The president continues, "Thanks to the skill and bravery of our armed forces, we have taken off the battlefield Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurayshi, the leader of ISIS. All Americans have returned safely from the operation. I will deliver remarks to the American people later this morning here in Washington." And indeed, the president is expected to address the nation in about an hour. The Pentagon says there were no civilian casualties in the counter-terror operation, but residents of Atma in northwestern Syria are claiming the opposite. They are reporting several civilian casualties in the 2-hour operation. Locals say that the raid took place at around midnight in a densely populated area near the Turkish border, where tens of thousands of displaced Syrians live in makeshift camps. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights has called the operation the largest since the 2019 raid that led to the killing of then ISIS chief Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. The observatory says that the clashes lasted for 2 hours and killed at least 9 people. Residents and rebel sources also reported the movement of several helicopters near the city of Idlib, which is the last territory held by insurgents fighting Syrian President Bashar al-Assad.
في الليل حوالي يمكن الساعة 12:30 واحدة إلا ربع هيك شيء حسينا يعني في بالنا عاصفة هواء لأن قبل المغرب كان في هواء فطلعنا ولا مباشرة الطيران فوقنا بعد ما في شيء 10 دقائق ولا صياح عمالي بيصيحوا سلمي حالك البيت محاصر.
Idlib province and the belt of territory around it are mostly held by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the former Nusra Front that was part of al-Qaeda until 2016. It is designated as a foreign terrorist organization and has in recent years been the target of coalition strikes. We wait here now in Washington for the president to address the nation on the killing of Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurayshi in northwestern Syria last night. There are now multiple reports citing Pentagon sources from multiple news organizations here saying that al-Qurayshi blew himself up during the raid and was wearing a suicide vest as the attack by US forces occurred. There are clearly all sorts of details that we do not yet have about this operation. What kind of intelligence did the United States receive and from whom relating to the precise location of al-Qurayshi? Were there civilian casualties on the ground during the course of this operation? Was he, as President Biden has claimed, killed by US forces, or did he blow them up? Did he blow himself up with that suicide vest as they advanced on wherever they found him in that corner of northwestern Syria? Enormous questions, of course, now about the future of ISIS's leadership, given that al-Qurayshi succeeded Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi about a week after al-Baghdadi himself was killed by American forces. But this is a seismic moment for Joe Biden's presidency, an opportunity to point at a major national security achievement, something that President Biden very much needs in the aftermath of the botched US military withdrawal from Afghanistan, but also a US military action in northwestern Syria that will lead to questions about whether the United States is prepared for any reprisals that might follow. follow. Questions too, of course, about the future leadership of Islamic State, because today's killing of al-Qurayshi comes nearly 3 years after the group lost its final enclave. But Islamic State fighters have once again begun re-emerging as a deadly threat in northern Iraq and Syria, renewing the public's fear for life and safety. Here's a report.
Iraqi security officials tour the country's long border with Syria. They're inspecting what they call recent improvements, including a second line of defense behind the current borderline, equipped with barbed wire fences. Their visit follows deadly recent attacks by Islamic State. Nearly 3 years after the group lost its final enclave, IS fighters are re-emerging as a deadly threat. They're aided by the lack of central control in many areas, according to a dozen security officials, local leaders and residents. In late January, Islamic State carried out its deadliest attacks against the Iraqi army for years, killing 11 soldiers. On the same day, militants stormed a prison in Syria, attempting to free inmates loyal to the group. Hundreds, including inmates, guards and civilians, were killed in the process. Officials and residents in the region lay much of the blame on rivalries between armed groups. After Iraqi, Syrian, Iranian and US-led forces said they'd beaten IS in 2019, they faced off against each other across the territory it had ruled. In some parts of Iraq where IS operates, the main dispute is between the government in Baghdad and the autonomous northern Kurdish region. Those are home to huge deposits of oil and strategic territory that both sides claim. And they're also where the jihadists' deadliest attacks in Iraq have taken place in recent months, with local officials saying IS militants hide out in the farmland between military outposts. But armed forces say that the sheer number of groups, which are all enemies of Islamic State, would squash any resurgence. Tashin al-Kafaji, spokesperson for Iraq's Joint Operations Command, says they're working together.
The meeting between the federal forces and the Kurdish Peshmerga was very productive. The meeting and the joint work against terrorist organizations was successful and proved to be a great contribution to the stability in the region.
In the wake of the prison assault, the US-led military coalition fighting Islamic State said in a statement that recent attacks had ultimately made it weaker. But some local people like Salem are not convinced.
Our demands are simple: security and safety. The Iraqi citizen just wants security and safety, and we ask the government for a strong army, training, new recruits just in case, all so that it gets stronger.